Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you here this morning on this incredibly beautiful spring morning here in Albuquerque. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So before we get started, because I'm going to forget if I don't mention it now, today the bathroom is all the way around the back. So keep going and keep going. There's a big, tall patio that looks a lot like this one back in the back, and that's where the bathroom is today. And we have a guest in this room right here where we usually use the bathroom. So if they decide to leave during service, let us not stare at them and make them feel really uncomfortable. That would be awesome. So anyway, hi, welcome. So wonderful to see you here today, and I just have to acknowledge that everyone's kind of feeling a little spunky this morning, I think. If you were here listening to rehearsal before service, we're just kind of feeling it this morning, and so I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really not sure, but I'm sure it will be beautiful. So I'm just so grateful to be here and to be in the presence of all of you as we figure out how to move together through these challenging times. Yeah. And so thank you for bringing your love into this space. It's nice to see some faces I haven't seen for a while. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we're just going to start with some prayer. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I'm just going to invite you to bring yourself present to what it feels like to be alive today. And maybe for the first time today, noticing what it feels like to breathe today. If you're like me, maybe you're finding some allergies in there. I'm just feeling that give and take. That is just so natural and beautiful, that your body knows how to do just so perfectly without even needing to think about it. And I just take a moment to acknowledge all of the other thousands of ways in which our bodies and our minds and our beings just connect to the give and take, the ebb and flow of the universe without needing to force anything. Or analyze it. Just knows. And I just breathe into that knowing today, just knowing that it can permeate our entire beingness. And I let go and trust that this day unfolds in a beauty and a perfection that is big enough to hold all of it and big enough to carry us. So I just lean into that sweetness and I let it be. And so it is.
I can see clearly now the rain is gone, and I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone all the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Think I can make it now, the pain is gone, and all of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is a rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. Bright, bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, nothing but blue skies. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue skies. I can see clearly now the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day.
So to prepare the way, yes, To prepare the way for our meditation this morning, I've chosen a David White poem called The House of Belonging. I woke this morning in the golden light, turning this way and that, thinking for a moment it was one day like any other. But the veil had gone from my darkened heart, and I thought it must have been the quiet candlelight that filled my room. It must have been the first easy rhythm with which I breathed myself to sleep. It must have been the prayer I said, speaking to the otherness of the night. And I thought, this is the good day you could meet your love. This is the black day someone close to you could die. This is the day you realize how easily the thread is broken between this world and the next. And I found myself sitting up in the quiet pathway of light, the tawny, close-grained cedar burning around me like a fire, and all of the angels of this housely heaven ascending. This is the bright home in which I live. This is where I ask my friends to come. This is where I want to love all of the things that has taken me so long to learn to love. This is the temple of my adult aloneness, and I belong to that aloneness as I belong to my life. There is no house like the house of belonging. And so we just take that energy, that is the energy of pulling us into our own belonging, and we allow the meditation to move us today.
Thank you. That was a tune by John Bartlett. My Country Fly Sets Out for the Big City is the title. Yeah. There we go. Here's a John Coltrane tune called Impressions. I can't wait for the sequel to that song. It's going to be a little bit zesty, guys. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you.
Music. I think we're all feeling that this morning, huh? So I think I've been annoying my husband for the last few weeks because every time I go outside, I take this like giant breath and look around and say, "Oh, spring!" And I'm just so happy it's spring. It feels like it's a reward for all of those months of especially out here. I tell you guys, I love you, and doing service outside in January out here is brutal. So I feel so lucky that we're in this glorious time right now. And I've been watching just the beauty that shows up, and it's so easy to see right now. Like a few weeks ago the tulips were blooming, and then the crocuses started, and we have a honeysuckle here that's just started to bloom, and the famous bush that all the people online know about that is always in the middle of the frame and has its own fan club, that rose will start blooming soon. And it's so interesting to watch just that cycle where things know exactly when to bloom and exactly how to do it, and they have this perfect timing. And I realized that there's such wisdom in watching that and realizing that those same forces and patterns are moving through us all of the time, and we resist it. So I sometimes think that if we could imagine that some of the conversations either we have in our head or with other people happened between like two different trees, how ridiculous it would sound, right? Like, does this leaf make my limb look big? Or am I growing the right way? Or just the ridiculousness, right, of the way that we relate to life and this thing that we're doing, and how disconnected we've become from our true belonging. And so that's why I chose that poem from David White, because I love the sentiment of finding our own house of belonging, right? That place where we remember to return to ourselves. But also there's the line about learning to love all of the things that it took us so long to learn to love. And for many of us, it's a process of unlearning some of the ways that we forgot how deeply we belonged in the first place. That we belong to this essential thing called life, and that it's in us, and that same wisdom that knows exactly when to bloom and exactly how to grow and exactly how to change and evolve is operating in us all of the time, and we're complaining about it, or we're resisting it, or we're saying it's not happening fast enough or in the way we think it should. And so there's all of these human ways that we cause ourselves to disconnect from ourselves and our true nature. And so how beautiful to let the seasons remind us that we're in fact being asked to bloom right where we're planted, that we don't need to change anything to be perfect, and that there's this really deep way in which we belong to something bigger if we allow ourselves to. So there's this great story about a merchant who sent his son to learn the secret of happiness from the wisest man in the land. And the young man had to wander in the desert for 40 days until he reached this beautiful castle at the top of a mountain. And in that castle there lived a sage that the young man was looking for. And the holy man was busy. There was merchants coming and going and people chatting in all of the corners and a small orchestra playing, and there was a table laden with all of the most delectable dishes. And so the wise man was talking to everyone, and this young man had to wait hours and hours until it was his turn for an audience. And so with considerable patience, he listened attentively to the reasons that the boy was visiting. And he told him that at the moment he didn't have time to explain to him what the secret of happiness was, but he suggested that the young man take a stroll around his palace and come back in 2 hours' time. However, the wise man said, "I want to ask you a favor." And so he handed the boy a teaspoon, and in it he poured 2 drops of oil. And he said to the young man, While you walk, carry this spoon and don't let any of the oil spill." And so the young man began to climb up and down the palace staircases, always keeping his eye fixed on the spoon. And at the end of the 2 hours, he returned to the presence of the wise man. And the wise man asked, "So, did you see the Persian tapestries hanging on my dining room? Did you see that garden that the master of all gardeners took 10 years to create? Did you notice the beautiful parchments in my library?" And the young man was embarrassed and confessed that he had seen nothing. His only concern had been not to spill the drops of oil. And so the wise man said, "So go back and see the wonders of my world. You can't trust a man if you don't know his house." So now the young man, more at ease, took the spoon and strolled through the palace, each time paying attention to all of the works of art that hung on the ceiling and the walls. He saw the gardens and the mountains all around the palace and the delicacy of the flowers and the taste with which all of the pieces had been selected and the placement of them. And so he returned to the sage and he reported in detail everything that he had seen. And the sage said, "Well, where are your 2 drops of oil?" Looking down, the young man realized that he had spilled the oil. And so this is the advice that the sage had to give to the young man about happiness. "This is my only advice to give you. The secret of happiness lies in looking at all of the wonders of the world and never forgetting the 2 drops of oil in the spoon." And I feel like there's something so precious and real about this story, because we can get so caught up either in the external world that we forget about the 2 drops of oil, or we can get so caught up in the 2 drops of oil that we lose our ability to participate in this world of wonder that we are existing in. And the invitation of this story from the advice of this wise man is this invitation to participate fully in both, right? To make sure that our focus is not just on that which is around us and going on around us, but also to never forget that essential belonging that sits at the center of us, that essential connection, that real thing that is at the center of us that connects us to all of that which we're seeing outside of ourselves. And it's that relationship, right, that is so sometimes tricky, because it's so easy to get caught up in our idea about what's going on and forget that there's a wisdom inside of us that is unfolding, and we can just let it move, and it will continue to know what to do. And it will continue to open in us if we let it. And so I was thinking about that story, and I was thinking about this sense in which we're so deeply connected to each other and how we belong to this bigger thing. And I came back across this section of a book that's was translated by Coleman Barks, who's an amazing translator of a lot of Persian texts. And this is a quote from Bahuddin. And it feels like it spoke to this essential thing that we're navigating right now as we figure out how as human beings in the time of COVID we move into greater awareness and belonging. So this is what he said. "In the middle of the night last night, I was considering how it could improve my behavior and make myself more cheerful and pleasant to be with. But really, are such thoughts any different from the plans to make more money or gain higher social status? These improvements are all about appearances. What would it be if everything I did were for God? If all my ambitions were truly for having a clear sense of the presence that permeates everything? Such midnight thinking gave me a headache, and I could not sleep or pray or concentrate on my work. And then this came. Don't think so much about me. Live in the kingdom of love where you walk along most naturally. you are not meant to untangle these theological contortions. And I just loved that statement, right? Live in the kingdom of love where you walk most naturally. What a beautiful invitation into allowing ourselves to feel like we belong right where we are. Right? Live in the kingdom of love where you walk most naturally. And so here we are, acting like we don't belong to this thing called life, acting like the one who sent us here didn't know what it was doing, that there isn't the same kind of wisdom that knows how to bloom at exactly the right time inside of all of us. We keep forgetting this, and we keep forcing things, and we keep trying to by complaining about things, make them different. And we keep trying to do all of these other things instead of remembering to live in the kingdom of love where we walk most naturally, to just let ourselves live there, that we don't have to do anything different, that there's nothing that needs to be perfected, there's nothing that needs to be changed. So Thich Nhat Hanh has this piece in one of his early books where he talks about the tangerine meditation. And what he talks about is that one day he was with a bunch of children, and he offered them a basket filled with tangerines and passed them to each child, and every one of those children was asked to hold this tangerine in their palm. And they looked at it, and they were invited to meditate on the origins of that tangerine. And so they saw not only the tangerine, but its mother, the tangerine tree. And with some guidance, they began to visualize the blossoms and the sunshine and in the rain, and they saw the petals falling down and the teeny fruit begin to appear, and the sunshine and the rain and the teeny tangerine growing. And then now someone had picked it, and it was right there, right in front of them. And so each child was then asked to peel the tangerine slowly, noticing the mist and that fragrance that happens when you peel a tangerine slowly, and to bring it to their mouth and to take a mindful bite, and in full awareness of the texture and the taste and of the fruit and the juice, and to eat slowly like this. And what he talks about is that your ability to really perceive or experience what is, which is how amazing a tangerine is dependent on where your mind is. And he says that if you're free from worries and anxieties, you will enjoy the tangerine more. But if you're obsessed with your anger and fear, the tangerine may not feel real to you, and you may not even taste it. And this tangerine meditation, this idea of getting present to not only what we're experiencing, but the real depth of connectedness that's related to every single thing that we experience, is like this sense in which we are both able to experience the outside world, like that story of the merchant's son, while still able to open to the essence, right? That the two drops of oil. Like there's this way in which we get to do both. But that we can only do that if we're in a space in our minds where we remember that we're connected and belong to everything. Because if we're somewhere else in our minds, then we lose touch with that. And so the experience of remembering our belonging and just making sure that every single time, especially when we feel disconnected from it, right? When we went too far in one direction, that we take a moment to remember how ridiculous it would sound if two birds said to one another the things that we say in our heads, or two trees, or two flowers, or two stars. Like really, if we realized how incredibly precious and amazing this human experience is that we've been given, then all of a sudden We remember our connection to all of life and that which sent us here, and all of that other stuff just starts to get put into perspective. It allows us to be free to experience what it really means to be happy, what it really means to walk in the love that comes most naturally to us, that we don't have to fight it and we don't have to complain about it, and that we can just bloom. And we just can bloom at the exact right time and trust in that and let go of all of the worry and the pettiness and the fear and the ridiculousness that we create. And I have to say, I'm not saying I don't do this, right? I'm not saying I don't create ridiculousness, because I do. And then in the midst of it, I try to remember that which I belong to. And I try and remind myself in a deeper way that there's a wisdom inside that knows. And I don't have to fight it. And I don't have to complain about it. I don't have to fear it. And so as we practice this more deeply, as we enter into the way that spring becomes summer really quickly around here, there's just this sense in which there's just this energy inside of us that just knows how to do whatever it is that's going to happen next. We don't have to figure it out. We don't have to analyze it. We don't have to have a plan. We don't have to have a checklist and whatever it is that we would do, right? We just get to trust this energy inside of us that knows, and we can be present to whatever it is that gets called out of us because of that. And so I'm going to ask the band to come on up, because as we prepare our way into prayer, I'm going to ask you to maybe think about some place in which, instead of just letting yourself bloom and flower and do life the way that is most natural and beautiful for yourself, you've been resisting or fighting it or trying to analyze it or make it be some other way. And we're just going to lean into what it feels like to remember that we belong to something bigger, and that there's a wisdom unfolding that is bigger than any of our ideas. And we're going to see what handing it over to that wisdom inside of us does. So please join me as we sing into our prayer.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
And so our prayer of love today is a prayer of remembering the one that goes by so many beautiful names, including each of our names. The one that knows how to grow and unfold, to give and receive, to open and flow, that just knows exactly when and how to bloom. And I just recognize that one guiding us deeper in this time of question into a even deeper experience of remembering the belonging that sits at the center of who and what we are, the wisdom that is guiding us, and the preciousness of not only experiencing the fullness of life, but remembering at the center of all of it is that precious connection to everything. And so I just recognize the peace and the power and the happiness that come from just remembering that the same wisdom that knows how to create spring knows how to live and breathe in us. And I just let go into the peace and the power and the wisdom of the one, knowing that it knows how to show up as us, in us and through us. I just let go and I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us. One, two, three. Thank you.
Thank you guys. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day. Thank you for watching online. If you're watching online, there are baskets in the trees if you'd like to make a contribution to this community here in person. We also have a spot on our website, onespiritualcenter.org, where you can make a donation there as well. And we just really appreciate all your continued love and support as this community figures out how to do COVID, just like all of us individually are trying to figure it out. So I was realizing, I think it's almost a year since we've been doing service outside, and what a joy to have been able to continue to meet in a safe way this whole time. So thank you. So I have exciting news because, we're getting back to being healthy. And so we are back at Roadrunner Food Bank in June. Yay. So the first they could schedule us because of staffing issues there is the fourth Saturday of June. And they changed their timing a little bit. So we used to go from a little later. We'll be there from 10 to noon on June 26th, which is the fourth Saturday in June. And it's going to be lovely to be able to be back together in service in a safe way. So particularly invited are those of us that have been vaccinated. Woohoo! And we, so I never thought I'd be so excited about being vaccinated for anything. Have to tell you, it's really exciting. So we will be back there, and I'm looking forward to that. So you'll hear more about it. But June 26th, if you'd like to join us, let me know just so I can make sure your name is on the list, and I can let Roadrunner know exactly how many people we'll have. So we'll be back in the rotation on the fourth Saturday of the month. Now that it feels safer to do that together. So Roadrunner Food Bank, June 26th. Can't wait. And let's see, I think that's all I have to say today. So thank you for being here, and we are going to sing.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People get ready for the train a coming. Don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith, hear that diesel humming. Don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People get ready for that train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board 'em. There's room for all that love the most. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
We have one last blessing to sing to one another.
Go forth and walk